Order! Order! You are an incorrigible delinquent at times. Behave yourself, man!
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I join the Prime Minister in congratulating Leicester City on their amazing achievement. I hope it's not an indication he's going to support another football team, or is he going to stick with the two he's got already?
You can support Man United, the Windies and Team GB all at the same time. Of course, I'd rather you supported West Ham. Sorry, I had what Natalie would describe as a brain fade. I'm a Villa fan. I don't know what happened to me. I must be overcome by something this morning.
To be fair, I suppose forgetting which football team you've claimed to follow since childhood is one of those things that just slips your mind from time to time, like what country you live in or which end of your body you shit.
Later today, Mr. Speaker, commemorations begin for Holocaust Memorial Day in Israel. I hope there is agreement right across all parts of this House in sending our best wishes to those commemorating the occasion and sending a very clear statement that anti-Semitism has no place in our society whatsoever, and we all have a duty to oppose it. Tomorrow, Mr. Speaker, people will go to the polls in council elections in England. 9 of the 10 most deprived councils are set to see cuts higher than the national average, with 8 facing cuts more than 3 times the national average, meaning less money for youth services, for adult social care and for those in areas of the greatest need. The Prime Minister used to say, "We're all in it together." What happened to that?
Prime Minister.
Well, first of all, let me join the right honourable gentleman in saying, yes, of course, we should always support Holocaust Memorial Day, whether it is here in the United Kingdom, where we have a number of commemorations, or indeed in Israel. But I'm going to press him on this point, because he did say this. He said, "It will be my pleasure and my honour to host an event in Parliament where our friends from Hezbollah will be speaking. I've also invited friends from Hamas to come and speak as well." Now, Hamas and Hezbollah believe in killing Jews, not just in Israel, but around the world. So would he take this opportunity? Because if he wants to clear up the problem of anti-Semitism in the Labour Party, now is a good time to start. Withdraw that they're your friends.
Mr. Speaker, I've made it very clear Labour is an anti-racist party and there is no place for anti-Semitism within it. We've suspended any members that have undertaken any anti-Semitic activities or work or statements and have established an inquiry led by Shami Chakrabarti. The points he was making earlier relate to a discussion I was hosting in order to try to promote a peace process, and it was not an approval of those organisations. I absolutely do not approve of those organisations. Mr. Speaker, the reality is that vulnerable people are being abandoned in this country. The Prime Minister has said that social care and support for the elderly is a priority for him. So if that's the case, why has he cut £4.5 billion since 2010 from the adult social care budget, leaving 300,000 older people without care and support they need to live in dignity?
First of all, we're putting more money into social care, and we're allowing councils to raise the council tax to put that money in. But I'm afraid he's going to have to do this one more time. He referred to Hamas and Hezbollah as his friends. Now, he needs to withdraw that remark. Let me give him another chance. Are they your friends or are they not? Because those organisations, in their constitutions, believe in persecuting and killing Jews. They are anti-Semitic organisations. They're racist organisations. He must stand up and say they are not his friends.
Mr. Speaker, obviously, anyone that commits racist acts or is anti-Semitic is not a friend of mine. It's very clear. It's very clear about that. I'm very clear about that. I would also invite him to think for a moment about the conduct of his party and his candidates in the London mayoral elections. The way in which they're systematically smearing my friend, the member for Tooting, who's our candidate for mayor. I wish him well, and I invite the Prime Minister to undertake to ensure that the Conservative Party in London desists from the activities it's undertaking at the present time in smearing my friend.
But the central charge against Mr Ghani by David Cameron at PMQs this week was that he supported Islamic State. That came off the back of the Tory candidate to be mayor, Zach Goldsmith, describing the father of six as one of the most repellent men in Britain. And the only problem is that there's no evidence that Mr Ghani has ever supported Islamic State. And even more embarrassingly for the Tories, Mr Ghani is on the record to LBC saying that he provided volunteers as a community leader for their candidate, Dan Watkins, who stood against Sadiq Khan in Tooting at last May's general election.
Last week, Mr Speaker, the Joseph Rowntree Foundation's destitution report found that 1.25 million people in Britain were unable to afford the essentials needed to eat, stay warm, clean and dry. The number of people using food banks has risen again last year. The Prime Minister usually lectures us about a stronger economy. When will that stronger economy mean that fewer people need to use food banks?
What the stronger economy means is there are over 2 million more people in work than when I became Prime Minister. That you can earn £11,000 before you pay tax as I'm Prime Minister, and we've now introduced a national living wage, something never done in 13 years of a Labour government. But I completely reject what he says about Labour's candidate for the London mayoralty. I would make this argument, as I said before at this dispatch box, we are not responsible for everything someone says when they share a platform with us. We can't control everyone who appears in a picture, but there is a pattern of behaviour with the honourable member for Tooting. And let me tell him, he shared a platform with Sajil Shahid, the man who trained the ringleader of the 7/7 attacks and accused the United States of bringing 9/11 on themselves. He shared a platform with an extremist who called for Jews to be drowned in the ocean. When this was put to the honourable member for Tooting, this is what he said. He described it as mere flowery language. Now, if he wants to know why he has a problem with anti-Semitism, it's because his candidates share platform after platform after platform with extremists and anti-Semites and then excuse their words. One more time, say you withdraw the remark about Hamas and Hezbollah being your friends.
Mr Speaker, last week the Prime Minister tried, as he often does, to smear my friend, the member for Tooting, by his association with Solomon Ghani. It turns out that Mr Ghani is actually an active Conservative supporter who has shared platforms with the honourable member for Richmond. He also should reflect on the words said by Lord Lansley some years ago that racism was endemic within his party. We have set up a commission of inquiry. I suggest he might think about doing the same thing. Lord Kerslake, Mr Speaker, the former government housing chief, has said the housing bill effectively removes the security that people need. It is fundamentally wrong. Homelessness up by 1/3 since he became Prime Minister and rising again this year. A voter, Malcolm, wrote to me this week and said he and his family will lose their home if the government's housing bill goes through. Why can't the Prime Minister follow the example set by the Welsh Labour government in placing a legal duty, a legal responsibility on councils to help people during a housing crisis? Why can't he do that?
I tell you what this government has done, not in Wales, where Labour in control, but here in England, we built twice as much council housing in the last 6 years as Labour did in the previous 13. But I'm not going to let this issue rest about the honourable member Tooting. he raised the case of Suleiman Ghani, who the member for Tooting shared a platform with 9 times. This is a man who says it's wrong to stop people to go and fight. Look, as long as it takes. Do you want to know the views of the person that your leader has just quoted? He described women as right. The honourable member for Islington might be interested in this. He described women as subservient to men. He said that homosexuality was an unnatural act. He stood on a platform with people who wanted an Islamic State. That is why his attempts to deal with anti-Semitism are utterly condemned to failure. Because he won't even condemn people who sit on platforms with people like that.
It's almost as if the Prime Minister has chosen not to remember your revelation that this fellow was invited by the Tory candidate for Tooting to be at a Conservative Muslim Forum event.
Yes.
Jeremy Corbyn!
Mr. Speaker, I did point out to the Prime Minister, I was actually trying to help him, that the gentleman concerned is actually a Conservative. And so maybe he would care to think about that. He might also consider that Shazia Arwan, a former Conservative parliamentary candidate, said this of the Tory mayoral campaign: "I'll be voting Labour. A lifelong Tory voter and ex-candidate, I'm ashamed of the repulsive campaign of hate." So, Mr. Speaker, in fact, homelessness has been reduced by 67% in Wales since the new regulations came in. Why can't he do the same in this country? Inequality, of course, is getting worse. Education ought to be a route out of poverty. But new figures show that the number of people participating on a Level 2 adult education course in the first half of this year fell by 1/5 compared to last year. How can we tackle inequality when the Prime Minister and his government are taking away the opportunities for people to find a pathway out of poverty?
But he talks about inequality. Inequality has gone down under this government. There are 764,000 fewer workless households. There are 449,000 fewer children living in workless households. Why? Because we've got a growing economy, a living wage, more jobs, people paying less taxes. That is what's happening under this government. But once again, I say to him, we are investing in the schools to give people opportunity. We're investing schemes to allow people to own homes to give them opportunities. He opposes all those things because the truth is this: he may be a friend of the terrorist group Hamas, but he's an enemy of aspiration.
Mr. Speaker, politics is about choices. The Prime Minister cut the...
Order. Let me very gently say to the assiduous but slightly over-enthusiastic Government Whip, the Honourable Gentleman, the Member for Hexham, that his role is to be seen and not heard. No further noise from the Honourable Gentleman today, or his sidekick to his right. A cabal of whips will not shout people down in this chamber. Be quiet or leave. Very simple. Jeremy Corbyn.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Prime Minister's government has cut income tax for the richest, cut capital gains tax, cut corporation tax again and again. At every turn, they make the wrong choices. Tomorrow, people can make their own choices about the crisis of social care, the housing crisis in this country, the unprecedented cuts to local councils in areas of greatest need, the cuts to further education, taking opportunities away from young people. The choices have been made. They cut taxes for the rich. We want to ensure that there is proper taxation to ensure there are decent services for the rest.
Prime Minister.
He's right. Tomorrow is about choices. You can choose a party that's on the side of security for hard-working people, that wants to make make sure there are more jobs, there's better pay, there's lower taxes, there's good schools for your children, there's a 7-day NHS there for you when you need it. Or the other choice, you can back a party that puts extremists over working people. And that is utterly incapable of providing the leadership your local council needs or our country needs.
That's all, folks.